and welcome to Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. My name is Robert Haynes, and I'm your host and your guide into the world of TSM. Oh man, guys and gals and thems. Holy moly. Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy to think that we are where we are, considering how this year started, how everything went down, and to say I am excited would be an understatement. Now, you may not hear it as much. It's early here on the East Coast. But I can tell you right now that I am pretty pumped. Before we go into it this week, I am going to let you guys know I have some bad news. Well, good news for me, bad news for those of you who are listening. Unfortunately, I will only be doing one episode this week and one next week because of the fact that I am going out of town. Excuse me. No, not tomorrow. Wednesday. So, and then I'll be gone from Wednesday to Wednesday because my friends have a weird schedule where they are, out of town and are able to do things because of their jobs. So, I'll be gone Wednesday to Wednesday, which means that you will have the episode this Monday and the episode next Thursday to prep us for, everything that's going to happen. So, I do apologize. I would love to record from Florida. Although, with COVID cases rising there and everything, just gonna have to be real safe, fam, real safe. But yeah, I'm pretty excited overall. I think this is going to be a good trip for me. I'm really looking forward to it, for the mental break more than anything else. But I am going to miss doing this show, so I do apologize. I'm not going to have all my equipment and stuff to be able to do it. And to be honest, this is kind of the perfect week for it. I might have tried to squeeze in a show today and tomorrow had TSM been playing this weekend, but spoiler alert, they will be off. I believe it's this weekend or next weekend. Yeah, I think it's this weekend. Actually, I know it's this weekend. But let's jump into why that is. So, we hyped this game up. We talked about it. We were very prepared for the possibility of losing said game. And that said game was to start off the weekend. 100 Thieves versus TSM. Right? And this was for all the marbles. I went through all the playoff scenarios, right? I wrote a piece about it even. You can go back and check that if you wanted to just see how important this weekend was for us. And how starting it off with a win over 100 Thieves was ultimately more important than almost anything else. Okay. And so, it's worth noting just, how much we really needed a win in this game, because it gave us the tiebreaker over 100 Thieves. It broke their 2-game win streak against us, and it allowed for us to comfortably need only one win against CLG or Dignitas. So, two pretty important things, if you ask me. And with that, we hop in. So I liked our comp. I loved, they got the Silas. I was honestly very afraid, to say the least. And, I was cool. We were able to get Diana and Viego. Kind of love that. They did get the Olaf, which scared me a lot. I had a feeling they would do Thresh and Varus. I think that was in my my personal draft that I did. I also discussed the Gnar for them. I'm gonna be honest. I felt real good about my analysis of this game. I did not predict the Cassio as the counter to the Sylas, but I feel like I called most of what they were going to do and a decent amount of what we were going to do too. And so I know that we didn't get everything that I picked. Actually, we got like none of what I picked. I did not expect the Jhin. I really expected the Viego and the Diana to be banned. And I did expect the Leona, but those are picks that I knew that we would be interested in picking. The Cassio and the Jhin were ones I was off on, but for 100 Thieves, it kind of shows how transparent they are. I said the Olaf, I said the Gnar, I said the Sylas, the Thresh, and the Varus. Literally all of them. And so, I think our flexibility in this draft and the willingness of Power of Evil to go to Cassiopeia and for Lost to go on to the Jhin, which I do think is we'll talk about it here a little bit, I think is going to become an important factor going forward, is impressive. I don't know, to say the least. So, moving on here, we got the draft done, and we just, and real quick, I do want to highlight, somebody reached out to me this last week and was talking about, hey, I don't know if these full-on recaps, most of us watch the games, maybe give us your highlights, maybe give us your, more of my thoughts. And so, for this game, I am going to mostly do just thoughts. There are going to be some plays I like to talk about, but in general, I'm just going to give you what I was thinking, because I didn't even get to watch most of this game live. I had some work stuff going on, so, I knew what happened. I watched parts and fragments of the game, and I ended up going back and rewatching this game fully, not just the highlighted version. And dude, our macro is so good. But anyways, like, just the understanding of TSM that the Olaf, while yes, he can trade well pretty early on, without the red buff, he's not as strong. And for Spica to just go and take it, with the rest of the team having the push, because having push on Jhin, by the way, is really tough. I don't know if you know that, but with only 4 shots, while yeah, he does a lot of damage, especially in the early game, it doesn't really matter very much. His clear is still pretty bad, and in general, his clear is not very good, which is where this Cassiopeia pick, should we had been behind, was even more important, because she can clear like nobody's business. So I don't know, just a lot of great stuff here. But seeing us, collapse onto the Olaf, knowing, the closer is an important piece of this, and not only not allowing him to get a kill, but anticipating his bad decision to overcommit to the fight was so smart. And Sword Art being there was just, again, it's just big brain. And giving, I don't know if they intentionally gave the kill to Lost, but I feel like that's such a good catalyst for him to help him out, and I love it. Because then it turns into a Drake, and it's just what we talked about last week, right? We got to get ahead, got to get these Drakes stacking, playing through the bot lane. I love it, because not only are we getting the bot lane ahead, then on a roam, we have the Cassiopeia waiting to kill the Sylas and not allowing him to be able to do all of his jumps, right? Because he's got 2 of them, essentially. And so, 3, actually. And so, you can also build early anti-heal, as Cassiopeia, due to her Q and her miasma. Both of them are really nice, and so, it's such a great counter to Sylas. Not only does it stop the jumping, it stops the healing. It can poke from range. it's such a great pick, and I wonder why we haven't seen more of it. I did hear, that Cassiopeia did get a buff, which, I mean, obviously helps, but, she's going to be in the meta. This is huge. A Cassiopeia pick is smart for so many reasons, guys. Like, think about all the different dashes and jumps that are in the game right now. Diana, Viego, Lee Sin, Sylas, to name a few. Even Gnar. And for something to be able to, for one ability, the miasma, to be able to stop or stall or ground or whatever you want to use, word you want to use, it's a very valuable pick, and one that you got to remember. I mean, it's a game of split second decisions, and a game of inches, millimeters even. And to have that slight pause may not seem like a lot, but right when a Lee Sin is trying to get away, not being able to jump, an Ezreal, a Viego's dash, I don't think he can dash in it. I would hope not. Even the Diana, I mean, it nullifies her E. The Sylas, we talk about it. This is being able to show this pick in an important game. Leave it not only as the last pick. It not only makes me not afraid of Sylas, it makes me so confident in Power of Evil specifically. And we're gonna go through a lot of this, by the way. This will be a longer episode. We have a lot to go over. I'm not only gonna recap this, I'm gonna kind of go over the end of the year as a whole. So buckle up. But moving back to the game itself, being able to win through the bot lane and not really allowing the Olaf to take over, I think is important, because getting Huni ahead is great. But, like, if Huni can just kind of do his thing in the top lane and not die, and we focus the bot lane and subsequently the mid lane, because Power of Evil is able to roam a little bit too, and he talked about this in interviews and everything. He's been saying, hey, we're playing around mid a lot better. And I think maybe that's been the key to unlocking him, because we know he's not like a perfect laner. He's very much a kind of go even-ish mid laner, maybe roam here and there. But I think the rest of the team being able to play around, the roams from mid lane, from his opponents, and him being able to collapse, sometimes even a little bit later, I think lately has shown just how much better we've gotten, because being able to play through the top lane, we know that we can do that. We showed a little bit earlier in this split that we can play through the bot lane. Now we're showing we can play through the mid lane. And I'm talking about like earlier. Obviously, Huni can pop off later in the game. Lost can pop off later in the game. Power of Evil has pretty much always popped off later in the game. But for Spica to be able to unlock any of the lanes whenever he wants to is just so valuable. And so, seeing this game, I think, is just... It's so important, because not only were 100 Thieves not looking great, which is fine, but, we were really needing a win against them. And to be able to play the way that we did is just great. It's so good. Continuing on, I think that the supportive meta is coming back with Jhin and Ashe back in the meta to a certain degree. We saw Ashe, I believe, in the LEC recently, specifically as a counter to Kalista, which I think is very good. And I think Ashe being in the meta and Jhin being in the meta is going to be great for Lost and for us as a whole, because we like to have him be in the side lanes and kind of do his own thing. And I think that the positional errors and issues that we have seen with Lost at times, most of the time, sadly, kind of become less of an issue when you don't rely on him to be more than, hard CC, late damage, more of the burn through type damage dealer, instead of, what we have been seeing with the Tristanas, the Kaisas. He looked good on those, but it wasn't great. The Varus, again, I think is a little bit more supportive. We've already seen him start to play that pretty well as well. There's just, like the Aphelioses, I don't think really work as well for him. I don't know. There's just something about these like supportive picks. Like I think if the rest of playoffs and knock on wood, hopefully Worlds stays at a Jhin, Varus, Ashe meta with some Kalista here and there, which I don't love it for Lost. He has played it well. Obviously, at times we saw, the game against C9, but I think if it can stay within those three, with some other AD carries poking in, I think this is a great meta for him. And we see it here, he's positioning well. He's in a good amount of fights for the team. He's able to do damage, something that we have not seen out of him. And while, yes, many of you are going to go back and be like, but Rob, it didn't work earlier in the season. His Jhin was bad, and it looked like he was super uncomfortable, and blah, 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 blah. And you're right. But that's different now. This team is cohesive, right? He knows how to play with Sword Art now. He knows how to play around the rest of his team. And while he is not, an AD carry that's going to blow your socks off, he is getting the job done. He can carry when unlocked. He can be this side lane presence in the early game specifically that can allow for Sword Art to be unlocked and allow him to go around making plays. It's just good overall. But the clear winner of this team and the clear winner of this game specifically was our control over the objectives and our macro gameplay. This was a low kill game for most of the game. There was only 3 or 4 kills, I think, between both teams through the first 15 minutes or so of the game, maybe 20 minutes of the game, it feels like. And so, for us, it kind of reminds us, and you'll see this when we go through the stats for the team and stuff later. We are not a fiesta kill heavy team, and we're also not a team that only relies on macro, which I think is a very important point. And in this game, we're seeing that we are choosing when we want to engage, when we want to try to kill. And I think those strategic killings are just as important as extreme aggression, which I do like when we're very aggressive. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a good look for us. I think it's a great look for Spica and Huni. But I think it shows the different types of games that we play. When we're going to play through Huni, it is a lot of early game skirmishing, fighting, kills, right? When we're playing through the bot lane or through the mid lane and we're trying for the Drake, when we're trying more for the macro type gameplay, it's more about zoning and control. More about taking the objectives through TP advantages, right? Like Sword Art gives up our first death. He dies at the second Drake, and you see Huni getting ahead because they drew out the TP from Sunday, and it was so smart because all of us are all of TSM are like, hey, we're gonna leave, we're gonna exit, out through the bot lane jungle. And we're all going to get ahead, and Sword Art is going to be the only one in position to even potentially get caught. He gets caught by the Thresh Hook, and whatever. Everybody else is out. Call's been made. They don't need Huni down here. They understand that there's no need for a fight. This is when we are at our best. We're being cerebral about every play. And we're allowing for Huni to get ahead, which pays off in a major way at the end. We get to this Baron fight, and I'm watching, this game again, and I'm like, man, Huni gets the Quadra. How is he going to do this when they're going through the Baron? And he just, 100 Thieves doesn't do their due diligence. They don't ward their backside. Huni does the flank around, and while he's doing that, the rest of the team are going through. Now, I will say, Spica is the one who gets caught by the hook from Thresh, which I don't love him being in that position specifically. I know he's a Diana. He can survive an initial hook and a dive from them, and I think he had at least stopwatch at this point. But I don't love him being the one to go in and face check. I really think it should have been Sword Art, and Sword Art was right there too, so it's okay. But I think, being close to the Baron pit, I understand he probably, is like, well, maybe I need to jump in to try to steal. I get it, but just a small error there. Pretty much the only small error of this entire fight, in my opinion, because then as the rest of the team are getting jumped onto, and FBI can't get out of a fight because who he's already jumped in with as Thresh. He's already taken his Q in. So there's no protection for the Varus at this point. And you just see Huni go invisible at the perfect moment. They can't see him. They have no idea because they haven't seen him at all, by the way. So they don't know if he's coming around the right side with the rest of his team or if he's coming around behind them. And the next thing you know, he just deletes FBI. And most of the team's already dead through, good positioning by Lost and Power of Evil. Obviously, Spica's doing pretty significant amount of damage too. And the next thing you know, the only one left is Gnar. And it's a quadra kill for Huni. We had already had the bot lane pushing. Bada bing, bada boom. The big dub and the win at 29. I mean, we get our 29th win there. So important. Such a great and important game. And a statement type of game. I mean, 11 kills to 2. 8 towers to 4. An 8k gold lead. That should have been more. But, whatever. It's not a big deal. And I think it shows... and by the way, we had gotten a Baron earlier from this one too, and we used it to take the bottom inhib and all that jazz. But it just shows how good we are at out macroing teams right now. And I think it's that level of macro that Bjerg has been pushing a lot, and I think it's what we are going to have to not only make it through playoffs, but again, knock on wood, should we make it to Worlds? Having your macro down, I think, is important. You can work on the individual laning skills and the strategy elsewise, but having a strong macro is something you can always fall back on. The late game scaling. We didn't even late game scale this game. We just beat them to the punch at every fight. It was awesome. So, 29th win there. We're looking good. Evil Geniuses were able to take out Cloud9. Liquid won against Immortals, not that it mattered. Golden Guardians beat FlyQuest, which would definitely matter later on. Dignitas beat CLG, which effectively ended their season. And so I'm looking at, this coming up game against CLG, and I'm like, oh my god, we're going to beat 100 Thieves and lose to CLG and Dignitas, aren't we? I'm afraid in my mind because there was a scenario where we win this first game and then we still finish third because we lose the next two, and 100 Thieves, 2-1s the weekend, and Evil Geniuses 2-1s the weekend. Or no, that wasn't even possible, was it? Sorry. Nope, wasn't possible. I guess we would have finished second. I don't know. It wouldn't have mattered, I guess, even if we had won. But whatever. We won in first place. We go into CLG. And, I really like our comp. Again, I know that people didn't love the gangplank into the Tahm Kench. I don't think against a better team that I would prefer it. But I think the idea behind it is good. I would have rather seen the Tahm Kench go bot with, maybe Jace, I think, was available. I think I was saying Jace here in my mind. Let me check, actually, because I got this game up already. No, Jace was not available. Okay. Now, I guess you could have picked Gnar Gnar would have been fine into Gangplank. Regardless, they picked the Tahm Kench. No problems there. I do think CLG's comp is very, very risky going with the Lulu mid, but that's kind of what Damonte does. He's more about, giving his teammates, the ability to carry. But, realistically, I mean, they're just super late game. They have no real frontline outside of whoever Lulu ults, which is normally not going to be, the Thresh, maybe the Xin Zhao. The engage is okay from them. I guess their hope was just Finn and Wild Turtle would eventually get big enough. But against us, it's like, our engage is so strong. Between the Olaf being able to run in, the Kalista ult, Tahm Kench, obviously the Rakan can get deep and get the Aphelios. I just didn't see a world where Aphelios was going to have a good time in this game, or even the Gangplank. Getting past his barrels is not that hard with those 3 champions. And getting to our line is going to be really tough for them. So, I don't know. I think that theirs was a lot more complicated to play, and I don't think that that's necessarily what they needed at that point. And it's nice for us to end CLG's, potentially LCS career, by the way. I don't know. We'll see about them. But we have, we get the 2 kills top. Great gank by Spica. Huni understanding the Tahm Kench really well. And taking out Finn pretty easily. Really don't understand the TP from Damonte, but it's, that's the kind of a mistake a team makes that hasn't been playing together for very long, which is obvious for this team with Damonte subbing in. I love how they made such a dramatic thing about we're going to be, making these changes for the team and all this stuff, and then they make one change. And it's like, yeah, that's definitely going to be what helps you guys play better. Anyways, the Tahm Kench from Huni was... it looked good in this game. I do worry about him in general to the point of, is he going to be somebody who... He's either going to be somebody who can do a lot of damage on a Tahm Kench top in terms of, making plays and whatnot, or he's going to end his face off. Kind of reminds me how he plays Nocturne. He's either going to jump in and make some great plays, or he's going to jump in and die in bad situations. Luckily, the Tahm Kench can survive a heck of a lot more than the Nocturne. So, maybe it's a better pick than I thought. Anyways, PoE's just reminding everybody how good he is with the Orianna in this game. Olaf is a great counter to the Xin Zhao, which we're starting to find out. I think Xin Zhao is going to start losing priority, by the way, when people can just pick the Olaf. I do think Olaf bans will come out more often, but we'll have to see. We have the great Orianna ult delivery system by the Tahm Kench. Again, even though we're playing a team that's a lot worse than us, we're mostly just out macroing them. There's not a whole lot of kills going on until we need it to happen. Then once we decide, hey, we want kills, it's pretty much game over at that point. And to be honest with you, this game just never felt in doubt. Pretty easy win for us there. Some great plays, some great macroing. There's just not much to say about this CLG game. They never really had a chance. We're just the better team, and I think it's one of the first times I can say that I watched a game and I was like, oh yeah, we are way better. And I know that we're way better than other teams, but I'm talking about literally from minute one. We always had these things where we would make a stupid play or make a small throw or something like that, and it was just like, oh man, come on guys. But it's like, we get the double kill for Spica at the beginning, and it's just game over. He can and will carry on that champion as soon as he gets that double kill. It's just over at that point. There's nothing that they can do about Spica just rampaging through them, and I think that's what makes Spica just so good. There are only a few people in this league that can do that. Closer's one of them. Blabber's another. That's what makes them great. And Spica has put himself into that conversation. At this point, we're 2-0. We are guaranteed number 1 seed. Nothing can happen because, even though I'm sure that 100 Thieves fans would be sad about it, we led off the weekend, I believe. Or no, we didn't, did we? No, our game was at the end of the weekend. 100 Thieves had already won, so I guess they were just hoping for us to win. I don't know. Didn't matter. It was an absolute stomping. That got us to 30 wins. Now you head into Sunday, and I'm just going to say this. I'm glad they had fun. Guys, there's nothing really to analyze. Those games are pointless. I watched the whole thing out of curiosity. Spica was kind of the only one who was smurfing on his position. I think Sword Art was okay, I guess, second best. Neo going pro as jungler next split, ? Yay, glad they had fun. We lost to Dignitas, dropped to 1-4 against them. Woohoo! Whatever. Game didn't matter for either team. They were both locked in at 1st and 6th. So, yeah, really no issues there with that. We go 2-1 in our final weekend. Probably would have gone 3-0, by the way. I think that our team was just so in sync that I don't know that there's a whole lot that Dignitas could have done if we had played normal comps and played, even if we had played normal positions with, I think, random champions. I still think we probably would have stopped them. I think it was just Hooney screwing around in the jungle and throwing and whatnot, whatever. Again, that game does not matter. But we finish overall at 30-15, guys. 30-15. We won 2 out of basically every 3 games. And in the summer, we went 18-9, which was about 2 out of every 3 games. Credit to Ben/Mellery for correctly guessing 30-15. I'm pretty sure. Somebody, again, would have to go and listen to that episode, but I'm pretty sure that he said 30-15. I had said 31-14. I know multiple times. I went back and checked. Sad. I'm sad. I think that was a very realistic possibility. They threw it against Dignitas. Here are the overall standings, just to show you how good it was for us. 30-15 for us, like I said. 100 Thieves 29-16. They threw in their academy team, who surprisingly did not look as good as I thought they were going to. But Evil Geniuses also had something to play for. 100 Thieves didn't. So, by the way, people who are whining about that, get over yourselves. That team earned their chance to go up there and show off their abilities. They've been easily one of the best teams in the last year and a half, 2 years. Got a bunch of young players who people will see again, probably even as early as next season. Boo-hoo, Cloud9. I get it if I was a fan of Cloud9. It feels bad, man, but you guys are the ones who didn't play Sven for the first 9 games of the season. Or however many games it was. You can't put that on 100 Thieves to do what they want to do. They can make their own decisions. So, sorry, Cloud9. Sucks to suck. Sure, would 100 Thieves have possibly won that game or been more likely to win it with their main team? Absolutely. But whatever. You also didn't have to go 15-12. You probably would have done a lot better with Sven in from the beginning. So, everybody makes their choices. It doesn't matter when they make them. Anywho, Evil Geniuses 28-17. The top 3 teams, by the way, TSM, 100 Thieves, and Evil Geniuses, all finished 18-9 on the season. 100 Thieves, like I said, and us, we had a chance of going 19-8. Whatever. Neither team really played hard. Cloud9 did finish 28-17, 15-12. You forget the fact that they were 13-5 last split. Rough, man. They had a full weekend's worth of a lead going into this split. They made every excuse in the book. They just did not look good. They did not look good. Another team that also struggled and had some issues internally. Were Team Liquid. They still struggled at the end here, guys. They ended up beating Evil Geniuses, but lost to Cloud9. I don't know how I feel about this team yet. I'll kind of go over that. I mean, they did not look good in that Cloud9 game at all, but whatever. 27-18 for Team Liquid in 5th. Also went 15-12. Dignitas, 23-22. One game over 500. You're welcome, Dignitas. They went 12-15. That team does not scare anybody going into playoffs. I think the two teams below them, I think, scare me more than them. Immortals finished 7th, playoff spot, 20-25. Managed to lose all 3 games, which is what a lot of teams really needed for Immortals to lose all their games. And sure enough, after a great weekend, the weekend before, they 3-0'd. They coin flipped and lost again. I mean, they had a chance to go for a double elimination spot, and they just didn't. I don't know what to say. They messed up. They just messed up. They finished 20-25, 13-14 for the summer. Very disappointing end for that team, I'm sure. Golden Guardians got in after finishing 3-15 last split. 3-15. They go on to go 11-16, which is not great, mind you, but good enough to get 8th place. And I think a lot of their wins and their changes and everything came, with Licorice. This team is pretty solid. I don't know that they're going to win a lot of games. I don't even know if they're going to make it out of the first round of the playoffs. It depends on who they play, honestly. I think, who did they play? I want to say that they faced the loser of C9 TL. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. That is not going to be fun for them, but I do think that if they get a struggling TL, there's a way that they pull it out. I think they could even potentially pull it out against C9, but we'll see. Regardless, the last 2 spots, FlyQuest 14-31. Yes, similar record as Golden Guardians, but Golden Guardians won on Friday, which gave them the head-to-head over FlyQuest, which, by the way, Golden Guardians' only head-to-head positive victory state was against FlyQuest. If it had been any other team in the league, including CLG, they would not have made playoffs. So fate decided and got them there, it seems like. And then CLG, paltry 12-33. Yay, they won their last game against FlyQuest. It was a good game, and it helped Golden Guardians get in. But man, oh man, dude, that team is... There are going to be a lot of questions about that team. I will apologize. I did think that getting first pick our first place would allow the team to pick their opponent in the second round. I talked about it for weeks. Nobody corrected me because I think all of us thought the same thing. Apparently, that is not true. Apparently, we will just straight up play the winner of C9TL, which, to be fair, unless if Dignitas pull off a miracle win against Evil Geniuses, and I do mean a miracle because that's what they are going to need, we would have picked the winner of this game anyways. We're not picking EG first. We haven't played them overly well. We have played C9 and TL better, although I am worried about playing either of them just because that is my natural disposition towards this. Regardless, we will play the winner of C9 TL. And I guess I'll go through this just a little bit because it's going to be another week until you guys can hear through me about this, and I kind of will need to think about it. And by the time that I talk about this game, the winner will have already been decided. So here's what I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about. Man, I still have so much that I want to get through. All right, we're going to burn through this. I don't know who I would rather play at this moment because I think both teams have their strengths. I think this is going to be a bloodbath between the two of them. Whoever wins this game is going to come out bloodied. They are going to have to show a lot of strats. Okay, that is the one, I think, major advantage we're going to have. Because I don't think this is going to be a 3-0 or even a 3-1. I think this is going to be a 3-2, and we'll just have to see. If there is a one-sided win, I think it will be on Cloud9's side, though. Team Liquid, yes, they won against Evil Geniuses. Great for them. Santorin's back. Great for them. They still have not looked like the same team. Jensen has been pretty average. Tactical's really been kind of their hard carry. And Alfari is beatable. I mean, it would just be fate, though, of course, for us to, end up having to face TL after 5-0ing them during the regular season and lose again in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, that would just be fate. Or not even fate. It would just be karma or whatever. I don't know. Because that Spica would get absolutely ratioed. Just awfully if we lost that series. And so, I would prefer to face C9, I think. I just think we match up better against them right now. I think Fudge is their main carry. I think Perks, he's going to turn it on in playoffs, I think, to a certain degree, but I still think that there are issues that they have yet to resolve. And I don't think that our team is going to be lacking. Yeah, we lacked in playoff experience the first time we played around this spring, but we've been playing. We're the only team that stuck together the whole season. I think it's going to be really incumbent on Huni not to make major throws, Sword Art as well. And I think teams are going to focus on bot lane because they are going to see it as our weakness. But in general, I am very apprehensive about either team because it just feels like for some reason they are going to get a playoff buff that we are not going to get, that we are going to keep the same level of play which we have had, which is fine most of the time. But playoff buffs, and these are the two teams that would get a playoff buff, by the way. TSM, 100 Thieves, EG, I don't think do. I think that we would all three play about the same. But I think that those two teams, there's just something about it, man. And they scare me. They scare me a lot. But, like I said, if I had to choose, I would prefer C9. I know they're the better team technically, blah, 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 blah. But there's just something in me that says I think that we would match up better. I think we would be able to control Fudge. I think Perks would continue to be doing what he is doing. I think we have a better understanding of the macro game. I think we have a better understanding of the team as a whole together. And I think that C9 could come in, and if we can win game one, I think it would tilt them enough for it to be a problem. TL, on the other hand, I know they're not as good, but there's just something. I think that there's just going to be a drive in that team to want to be like, hey, this is what we were if everybody was healthy in here. And that's a team that can run on its own without needing Jat there to coach them. Man. It just scares me. There's just something that scares me because, guys, the problem is like if we do, God forbid, lose in the second round, we then have to play the winner of Golden Guardians and the loser of this, C9 or TL, which I think, I don't know. I don't know what it is. We are the best team in the league, and there's just something that it's this TSM, like losing to Clutch Gaming and losing to, just random crap that scares me. Even last year, when we lost and made our miracle run or whatever you want to call it, lower bracket run, it was great. It was so much fun, but it was so freaking stressful every single week. And it's like, as we've talked about, all we want is for this team to go to Worlds. That's all we want. I don't feel like that should be that much to ask for. Like, just let's go to Worlds, guys. That's all we need. We need one best of 5 win. Just one. And we get to go to Worlds again. And we get to redeem ourselves. God, I just want to win that first round. And then I will be in New Jersey, and I will obviously root like crazy for us to win the championship. I will, regardless of my thoughts of second place being better for Worlds, I think. Regardless of that, I just want us to make it to Worlds. That's all I've wanted since day one, since way back in January or February when I first stated it, all the way to now, 6 months later, 7 months later, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how they play. We will see if they truly got their playoff buffs or if it's going to just be a fiesta. If round one's a fiesta, I'm going to feel a lot better. If they start playing cleanly and it's a battle to the death, like a true battle, then I'm going to be a lot more afraid. But again, we'll get to see their strats, and hopefully Beard can do a good job of getting the boys ready. As a reminder, we will be playing Sunday, the 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. So get that in your calendars now. Don't plan on doing anything else that day. Just be ready for a long, long series. Hopefully not, but maybe. I do think this will be a nice break for us, though. I think having a week off will be good. I want to see us hopefully use it to start perfecting some things, working on some strats. You know, I don't want it to be a, super grind week or anything like that. It sounded like the team was doing a lot of that. Like, if I'm Bjerg, I'm giving them off today, tomorrow, maybe even Wednesday. And then you spend Thursday, Friday coming up with some new strats. You watch the games. You learn from it. You practice Saturday, take off Sunday, maybe take off Monday, and then you go back at it. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all the way up to Sunday. I mean, we've got a lot of time between games. We've got 2 full weeks between games. I want to see them use this break in a positive manner. I hope that they, even give us a little TSM Legends. Show us fun stuff that they're doing and all that jazz. It'd be great. Now we're going to go through statistics and just kind of the overall season here. So, I think you guys will be a little bit surprised by this, but in terms of champions played this full year, so all 68 games, that includes the lock-in tournament, everything. Huni played 16 champions, Lost played 14, Power of Evil 15, Spica 17, and Sword Art 17. Not a huge surprise. I think jungle meta started becoming a little bit more volatile. I was surprised to see Lost playing 14 at the same time. There's not a lot of AD carries to choose from, so sometimes, and I mean surprised by, I thought he played more than I thought he did. But, overall, definitely a good variety, I think, for us. That's a lot of different combinations for us to play. A lot of different ways for us to play. Overall, including lock-in, I didn't notice this, but we went 41 and 27. Man, that lock-in was brutal. Blech. Overall, KDAs, Power of Evil almost had a 4, which is insane. He also had the highest CS per minute. Insane. Almost a 9. The most deaths, no surprise, were Huni and Sword Art. Yeah, again, not a huge surprise. Pretty good from them overall. I wanted to quickly go through this with you guys. So I'm going to do like individual statistics as well, and I'm only going to look at just Huni in comparison between this year and last year. So this year, Huni had a 2.7 KDA during the whole season. Played 13 games of Gnar, 8 of Nocturne, 8 of Renekton. I did not realize he played that many Renekton games, but I think near the end of the season he was playing it a lot, or I guess near the end of spring. 6 games of Jace, 6 games of Gragas. Ugh, God, I'm glad we don't see that anymore. 4 of Viego, 4 of Camille. Glad we aren't seeing that as much anymore. Some Lee Sin games, a couple Rumble, that was really about it. I mean, we saw his Tom Kench later on. He only played the Ornn once. It felt like he played that 2 or 3 times. It was so good when he did play it. But regardless, he had some pretty good stats on a lot of these champions. He was really pumping out the damage, pumping out the gold, all that jazz. But the funny thing is, because I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, Huni just seemed like he was so much better this year, so much more in control. And then I look at last year's stats, and in 49 games, he had a 2.5 KDA, barely behind his KDA for this year. His kill participation was about the same, 64 to 65%. His CSing per minute was actually better. His kills, his deaths, everything. Like, it's so funny how similar it was. Now, to be fair, that does count his time on EG Academy where he absolutely stomped. So, I mean, he was certainly better and more consistent throughout this year as a whole. But when you combine his stats on the 3 teams he played on last year, Dignitas, EG, and Evil Genius's Academy, he was relatively the same player. And I think that that's important. Because I think it shows what Huni can do when he is given the opportunity to be the player that he wants to be. And when he's put on a team that matches his skill level in terms of... And his mentality, I think, too. I think part of the problem was he didn't have a jungler that unlocked him in the right way. And, nothing against Svenskeren. I really like Svenskeren, but he just didn't do what I think Huni needed as much as Spica did. And, having that bot side be much more of a weak side in Lost, I think, was super important too. There was just a lot of things that I'm very convinced at this point that he was so much better on the eyes because, yeah, he made a couple of mistakes, especially early in the season, and he'd have those NT type games. But I think, like, even if you were to take out some of the stuff from early in the season, and I think if you were to take out, last year's Academy games specifically, I think Huni would look exponentially better this year in the statistical department and just, what we saw too. I mean, the man was one of the best top laners in the LCS. It's just fact at this point. Some statistics may not show it, but TSM wasn't a big kill team. They weren't a huge, get all these kills and assists. And you're going to see that as I run through these stats too. It's very interesting. All right, we're going to move on to Spica. I mean, the man had a 3.73 KDA on the whole season. I mean, he barely died, averaging 2 times a game, which is insane. He finally got his kill participation up. Remember, it was right around 60%. He raised it all the way up to 70%. So he was getting almost 80% kill participation, which I think is just what makes him so good. I love it. Udyr, 12 games, 7-5. Olaf, 6-2 in 8 games. Hecarim and Nidalee, both 7 games, 5-2. Although I think his Hecarim was way better than his Nidalee, and I do think his Nidalee was into at games. Diana and Xin Zhao, in 11 games, he went 10-1. Oh my god. And it was a KDA combined of somewhere near an 8. His Diana, 3.3 kills a game, 0.83 deaths, and 7 assists. Holy mother of God. Diana, Xin Zhao, definitely fit his style. Lilia, 5 games, went 2-3. I think that's partially because of the way the team played as a whole. Those awful Talia games. Ugh. He did play that Gwen game, which was good. Glad we were finally able to see it. He also played Viego, which was not as great, but meh. His Lee Sin, everybody's like, oh, it wasn't as good. Like, yeah, it was fine. Volibear's a champion. I would really love to see him on more as we move forward. But, I mean, this kid played well. Guys, I mean, he was pretty solid. I cannot really complain about him this year. I didn't love his kill participation. I still think he has some attitude issues, I would like to call them. But he's just a kid, so I'm not going to get mad at him for it. But, like, he's a stud, man. He's so good. He really is. And he played, I think, much better than most people would have expected him to this year. And everybody pins him. You know, I mean, think about the pressure he has. Oh, he's the face of TSM, right? He's one of the new faces of the LCS. I mean, he proved it this year. He started off a little slow, but once he got comfortable with his team, man, he looked good. The kid is a superstar, and he's at least a star. I think he's a future superstar. He's like 20, 21 years old. He's got such a long career ahead of him. He is going to be excellent, I think. Super good to see. All right, continuing on here. Power of Evil, no surprise. Pretty solid season. 3.9 KDAs we discussed. Dying close to only 2 times a game. His CS per minute was okay. His kill participation got better, at a 68, almost 69%. 16 games on Azir, 10 on Orianna, 10 on Syndra, 8 on Victor. Not a huge surprise. Those are like his 4 top champions of all time. His Lucian was 1-4. Oh, God, I'm glad we never have to see that again. I mean, you take those games out, and this man was just an animal. I mean, unbelievable. His LeBlanc looked good. The Seraphine looked good when he needed to play it. His Viego was solid when he needed to play it. Lee Sin, bad. We know Lee Sin, no Lucian. His Rise was really nice. Corky's just bad right now, so hopefully we won't see that again. His Twisted Fate's also not ideal, but he pulled out the Ahri, the Cassiopeia. I mean, when I go into thinking about Power of Evil now, like, sure, he can pull out the Azir, Orianna, Victor, Syndra whenever he wants to. Whenever he wants to. And he's going to play well on them. But now, and we knew he could play LeBlanc too, but, like, when we go into this, into these playoffs, when we go into these best-of-5 series, it's no longer going to be, well, you just ban his Azir, Orianna, and Victor, and he's screwed, right? Like, no. Not anymore. This man, I mean, these are the champions I can see him playing, and unless if there's some buffs or, some weird things that come out between now and 2 weeks from now. Azir, Orianna, Syndra, Victor, LeBlanc, Viego, Rise, Ahri, or Cassiopeia. That is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So wait. Sorry. Yeah, 9 different champions that he can pull out. And yes, I know we only saw him on the Ahri and the Cassiopeia 1 game. That Ahri game was pretty clean. And the Cassiopeia game is a great counter for Sylas because he doesn't play Sylas. And if the team needs an AD mid because they need to play Rumble or something top, he can pull out the Viego. Sure, is he still going to mostly play AP, late game scaling type champion? Sure. But if he needs the mobility, right, the Ahri, if he needs to be able to match a Twisted Fate to a certain degree, Rise. LeBlanc, if he really needs to play it. This man brought out so much more, and I think Bjergsen really pushed him to be a better version of himself, and this is going to make him elite in my mind, is his flexibility. God, I love it. I love it so much. All right, continuing on here. We got our boy Lost. Yeah, his DPM was pretty low. I'll go through that here in a minute too, but his KDA was still a 3.65. The kid barely died 2 times a game. He was averaging, I think a team high 3.7 kills. Obviously, his Kaisa and his Tristana were pretty solid. He played those a total of 27 times, 18 and 9 on the champions. Um, he was pretty solid on them. His Zaya was 8 games, not as great. Callista 5 and 1. It's pretty good. His Jin 6 games, 4 and 2. His Ezreal 4 and 1. Remember when he brought out the before the Divine Sunder Ezreal, the Ravenous Hydra, I think it was one. That was pretty solid. His Aphelios, as we talked about, and his Jinx. I mean, I think those are two champions where it's like super, super late game, no mobility. A combined 2 and 5. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. He just did not look comfortable on those. Those are the ones I don't want to see out of him, realistically. His Senna was good. His Varus was solid. His Fortune's out of the meta, sadly. He played that Kog'Maw really well. We saw Samira, but she's out of the meta, thank God. So, I mean, going into playoffs, similarly, I think Callista, I think Jin, Varus. We haven't seen the Ashe this year, but I think he can definitely pull it out. He's played it in his career. And if we really want to, Kaisa or Trist, whatever you feel like you need to do. I mean, I think this is going to be a very diverse meta, but I think the supportive champions are going to be available and useful to be able to be played. And I think that'll help TSM a lot. So I'm very excited about that. And then we head on to Sword Art. No surprises here. Leona, Alistar, Nautilus. It's pretty much been those three all year long. He played a total of 35 games out of 68 with them, combining for a total of 21 and 15. His Alistar win rate's not as good, but I think he played the champion fine. He died more on the Alistar than he did on Leona and Nautilus, but, he also had some huge picks with them. Obviously, his Leona was by far his best champion, but Nautilus was really strong too. His Rel looked pretty clean when he needed to play it. Rakan, whenever he brought it out, 5 games, 4-1. Galio 3-0. 3-0, by the way, on Galio. 3-0. It was his second highest KDA. 75% kill participation. Why did we play that more? It was so good. It's such a good champion. I just don't understand why we don't play it. Oh, God. Alright, he played Braum. His Thresh was surprisingly not as good. I don't know if that maybe has more to do with the team or with the team comp than him necessarily, but whatever. Pantheon. Old Tom Kench, he never played the new one yet, or hasn't played the new one yet. I really liked his Pantheon games. Those were good. And then, you got the Bard and the Lulu. Meh. Whatever. Gragas, Karma, Seraphine. Meh. Whatever. The guy likes to engage. The guy loves to go in, guys. And this Leona, Alistar, Nautilus, Rel, Rakan, Galio, those 6, I think, are just prime for him. I think he made some really good plays with them most of the season. I just want to see him play Galio more. Overall, looking at our comparison to the rest of the league, Huni was pretty much 4th in almost everything. He did die the most in the league, but I think a lot of that was helped by that last game where he died 10 times or whatever, or 11 times. Just stating a fact. I think that that's just kind of how it was. But he had the 4th most amount of assists. His kill participation was 4th. His kill share was 5th or 6th or whatever. But the one thing that he did that I didn't kind of realize was, guys, he was 3rd in most laning stats. Behind Alfari and Impact. And if you take out Alfari because he only played 12 games, so we don't know what it could have been, he's kind of 2nd or 3rd in most stats. So, for him playing a whole season, I'm really proud of him. I think he played really well. I think if you have to rank it right now, if you did my all-pro suggestion, I would say probably Fudge, Impact, and then Huni. And I don't really have a problem saying that. I think he played well. Was he great? No. Was he good enough? Yeah. Was he solid? Yeah. I mean, Huni goes in and dies a lot, yeah, but he also dies to set up his team. I think tactical dying is important. Spica and Closer are literally neck and neck. I mean, Blabber was good this season. The man had 200 assists, which has to be a freaking near record. But he didn't have as many kills. He had about 20 more deaths. His laning stats were still good, but I still think it's between Closer and Spica. Blabber had plenty of inti games, so Spica was solid, man. 93 kills, 143 assists, kill participation of 72. His first blood percentage, by the way, was second only to Blabber's. I mean, the man played really well. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. He had a good season. His DPM was second in the league, or third, I guess. Dude, Iconic had a much better season than I thought he did. Man, if that kid can die a little bit less, he might actually be pretty good. Regardless, considering the way TSM play, the assists don't bother me as much, right? It's the lack of deaths, him being a huge part of our kill share, like nearly 30%. Him getting all of our lanes activated while still being able to be ahead himself in a lot of ways. I mean, the kid was solid. I'm sorry. I mean, there's a lot more than just statistics, which you guys know I'm a big statistic man, but it was good. It was generally very good out of him. In the mid lane, what can I say? I mean, Power of Evil had the second most amount of assists. His KDA is first in the LCS. He died the least amount of times, or second least amount of times to Palafox, who played in 18 games. So 9 games less than him. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of kills, but whatever. His kill participation was best in the league. His death share was the lowest in the league. His first blood was pretty average. His laning stats were not great, but they were pretty middle of the pack. But considering, his whole thing is, mid and late game, and he moved around the map a lot more this split, especially near the end, I think there's a very fair argument to be made that it's either him or Jizuke for top 2. I think there's a very fair argument for that. I mean, you don't realize how much Abadage just kind of fell off in the last 3 weeks. I mean, you could make an argument for a Blaze Olive being the third best this split. I don't know. Mid lane was interesting, guys. It's so hard because when you have a Blaze Olive and Jizuke getting 100 kills each and Power of Evil getting 68, but Power of Evil getting 30 more assists and almost 40 less deaths than a Blaze Olive and 20 less than Jizuke. I mean, it's tough. I mean, again, it's not all about stats, too. It's about looking at it. But I think there could be a very easy argument made for Power of Evil to be the best LCS mid laner right now. Especially the way Abadage played at the end, man. Not great from him. Lost was, definitely our worst player. I mean, it's a fact. But, he didn't have much jungle proximity. He was actually able to get his laning stats up pretty significantly from last split. His biggest problem was his DPM was by far and away one of the lowest in the LCS. It was the lowest in the LCS at his position. I mean, he didn't do much, but to a certain degree, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, he still had a high, amount of kills. His kills, assists, he was involved in stuff mostly. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making excuses for him. I like the kid. I think he's got plenty of talent left to show. I think, no, was he Danny? No. Is he coming back next split? I don't know. But he did the job that we needed him to do. And I think that there's something to be said about that. he also died like the least amount of time amongst LCS players, those who actually played the full season. I mean, Johnson played in 13 less games than him and died only 12 less times. You know, Sven played in 9 less games than him and only died 22 less times. Now, Sven had a lot more kills, but, you know, that's just, again, I think that's just kind of who these other teams are. Like, we're just not a high kill team. I think if we wanted to be more, you know, super fighty, I think that we'd have higher stats. But it's like, guys, like these kill stats and stuff don't matter as much for us. That's not who we are as a team. And I think Lost is going to get punished for that a lot, but he fits the style of play that we like and that we win with. So whatever. You know, Sword Art was also pretty low here, guys. He was pretty much middle of the pack, but so was Huki, you know, in terms of supports. Vulcan had almost 300 assists. Good God. It's a lot. But, you know, Sword Art died a little bit more than most people. His kill participation was actually relatively low. Laning stats were actually good for him, but, you know, he also got out of lane a lot. His wards and stuff were the highest. Last split, they were pretty average this split. I think he was more focused on trying to get his other lanes ahead through pressure, which there's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, our bot lane wasn't our strength. We know that. But when we needed to call on them for stuff, they could get it done. So I have no issue. My overall thoughts for the season, for this split, and I guess for the season as a whole. I was not as much of a Huni hater as a lot of people. I was very much like, I would prefer Impact, but, you know, Huni is fine too. And Huni played well. I do think that if we had had Impact, team might have been a little different. But I think Huni played the style that we needed him to. I think he was really much better than a lot of us thought he was going to be. And I think he became kind of a team favorite, especially after losing Broken Blade, who was on the rise in his career. You know, the fans loved him. Most of the players loved him, from what you could tell, too. He's just a good boy overall. You can tell he misses the team. I think that there's a chance in the very near future that we see Broken Blade back in NA on this team in the future. I don't know when exactly, but I could see it happening. Maybe not next year. I think that depends on Huni, but definitely within the next 2 years, I could see it happening. You know, wouldn't surprise me at all. But anyways, this is on Huni. You know, Huni was great, guys. I mean, I really enjoyed him on this team. I love that he, you know, pushed our team to make plays. I love that he has fun and that he brings, you know, a certain level of, I think, leadership and voice to this team. I think there are some intangibles that go unnoticed, maybe, that he brings to a team. I loved having him here. I think PoE came on really strong. I was a little nervous at how he started off, considering, you know, they made such a big deal about bringing him on. If he's our, you know, especially with some of the young guys that we have down there right now, I don't think that they're ready yet. I hope PoE stays as our mid laner for a while. I love him. I think he's great. I was so critical of him in the spring, but I think he really turned around what I wanted out of him. And it was more of a team thing than him, but I mean, the man's a stud. God, he is a stud, and he does not back down under pressure very often. You know, he had that game last week, you know, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, where, you know, he just ran it down on the Syndra, but that was such a rarity for him. You know, everybody's allowed to have those games here and there. But, you know, when I think of a player or, you know, a person who's going to be able to stay cool-headed and make his plays in the big moments, I mean, we saw it at Worlds last year. We've seen it, you know, at Worlds and other playoff games in the past. I mean, he's never won a championship in his career, and I think he is very determined to win one this year. And I think that he is that kind of calm, cool, level-headed mid laner that, you know, I mean, he's about as close to Bjergsen as we could probably hope for, outside of his inability to adapt to picks as well as Bjergsen did. But, yeah, I mean, I love him. I think he's been great. You know, I think when we're looking at the rest of the team, they came together, guys. You know, we think about what they were and how bad they looked at times last year, and or last split and earlier even in this split. And we really came together, and it wasn't just, hey, we're just going to rely on our late game scaling, right? Or, oh my God, like look at this, like that FlyQuest game at the beginning of the year where it was like, oh my God, look at all this, macro play. But then we threw at the end of the game, and I think we did a much better job at paying attention to our objectives, paying attention to TPs, paying attention to not overcommitting, working as a team to kind of figure out our objectives as the game went along, and enacting on our plans for those objectives. So, I mean, we are a team fight and macro-oriented team. That is just what we are. Are we great in lane? Hooney is. Power People can be, and Lost in Sword Art can be. But no, I mean, but that's okay. Like, we are such a balanced team, and I don't think that there are a lot of teams, even in the world to a certain extent, that can say that. I mean, every team has their major issues. I think if I look at ours, like, it's still just our inability sometimes to make plays when we have to. But overall, like, we make plays when we want to. And I think there's something to be said. There's something to be said about that. There's just something to be said about that. And I think we showed that we are flexible, right? You worry about us being painted into this corner. And I think that there are times where we were we were too easy to predict. And now that's not the case. We're going to go into these playoffs with more options in terms of the types of ways that we want to play, the types of champions that we want to play with than we had all season. And we have found counters to TF. We have found counters to Silas. We have found these counters to Xin Zhao, to these champions that I think we're so afraid of and didn't play against, all that well. And I just love it. I'm going to end this one on Spica and why he is the MVP of this league. Normally, for me to not vote for somebody in the top 2 or 3 teams as an MVP, even to vote for them, not even like for them to get my main vote, but to get a vote at all, they would have had to have really hard carried. And I think like Fudge might be one of those people who I would consider doing that. I mean, he was really carrying that team. I think Tactical deserves some recognition too. And I think that, I think Jizuke honestly deserves some recognition for how well he has played. But when I look at us being in first place, it doesn't happen without Spica being the catalyst for basically our entire early game and a lot of our late game. This is why I was so critical of him in the spring, because it just didn't feel like he was having an impact. And we had seen it the summer before where it's like, oh my God, he's in lane again. Oh my God, he's getting everybody ahead. Oh my God, look at how good he is. And I think he matured, even though I know I've said that he's been immature at times. I still think he has been, but I think he matured in terms of the way that he sees the game and the way he understands how to win is not always through going for the quickest kill, going for the highlight play. And when you look at an MVP, it's not just about individual performance to me. It's about what did you do for your team. I see the individual performance. I think it's there. Sure. Was he as kill hungry and everything as Blabber? No. But did Spica really ever cost us a game? I mean, you can maybe name 1 or 2, and I can't even think of them off the top of my head. I'm talking about this split specifically, by the way. Were there games that he was absent? Sure. But those happened less frequently as the season went on. And for a team that is so focused on the macro and the objective control and the ability to push themselves, I mean, we got first tower 60% of the time. We got the first 3 towers 60% of the time. First Herald went down to 57%, but that's okay. Top was only 61%. First Drake, more than 50% of the time. Dragon control in general, second to Golden Guardians at 58%. Elder Dragon, 80% of the time. Only, to 100 Thieves, 100%, which I'm assuming they only got maybe once or twice. First Baron rate, highest in the league, 70%. Baron control, highest in the league, 66%. Jungle control, only 2% behind Cloud9 at 52%. First Blood, I think I said this already, but one of the highest in the league. Spica was only behind Blabber in terms of First Blood. But Blabber died a lot. Blabber, Blabber died a lot, guys. I mean, he did. I think that's going to be his biggest knock. He died in bad opportunities and he didn't help lead his team. I think that's the only reason why you can't put him up there with Spica and Closer. I think Spica was just a little bit better overall. And I think we're still seeing the maturing and the surprising, development of this kid. He's still young. He still could be so much better than he is. And I think we'll see it over these next few years. And it's for the reason of him being able to learn to unlock any lane he wants to be the catalyst to being, to helping TSM be the best team in the LCS. That I think Spica deserves the MVP. I think if we were a team that got more kills in general, I don't even think it would be that close, by the way. I think if we were a team that had high skirmishing and just killing in general, not as much about controlling the game, I think Spica would have popped. I mean, I would have seen him having 120 kills or something like that. Which, by the way, he only finished 4 behind Closer for the lead in kills still. That's how good he was. And we unlocked him, things like the Diana, the Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao, his last game was pretty bad, but in general, he looked really good on those champions. And when, he had the opportunities to play Udyr, God, he looked so good on those. Spica is the LCS MVP. And when I get the opportunity to vote, that's where my vote will go. I don't know if the whole of TGH will vote for him. I'm going to make a pretty compelling argument, hopefully. I might cut this part out and have them just listen to it, my little rant. But I think that Spica is our MVP. At a minimum, he's the TSM MVP. But I think he deserves the LCS. Wow, what a split, by the way. Good Lord. I mean, it was longer, but it felt shorter than last split. The season's already done. We are into the final playoffs to decide who gets to go to Worlds. It's pretty crazy to think. And I really quickly want to commend, Chris Greeley and the LCS in terms of just the way they did this. The only thing I have a problem with is that first place should get to choose their opponent, but other than that, I think I've really enjoyed this season. I think the lock-in is a great way for these teams to kind of learn about themselves and get to be able to face their opponents. It gives us extra games to watch. All these LCS teams that are complaining, we don't get as much scrim time. Get over it, dude. The LPL and the LCK, they don't get as much scrim time. I think the LPL plays still double to triple the games that we do every split. So I don't care. They're having to prep for best of threes every week. And multiple of them every week, by the way. So I really don't want to hear it. I think that this has been great. I think for the players, for us, I think we have a much better understanding of who the best teams are because of these extra games. I like playing 3 days a week. I think it's great for the viewers. I understand the viewership is down. I don't know that anything's going to fix that other than just better promotion, better, better, I don't know, just better performances at Worlds. I think will definitely at least help a little bit. I think there are a lot of other reasons, but I won't dive into them too much. But I hope they keep this schedule. I don't want to see them cheap out because they're so overly worried about viewership. Like, this league needs to take the focus of the long term instead of the short term gains, and needs to see itself like, we had the whole controversy over, whether or not they should get rid of the import rule. They're not, thank God. They're allowing our leagues to develop players and develop talent. When you have people like Blabber, like Spica, like Tactical, like Danny, you can kind of start running down the list. All the players on 100 Thieves Academy, that'll be pretty good coming up here. Iconic was a huge surprise. Our Mayo looked better than he ever has this year. Sorry, I'm not thinking of literally every person. But, even the mid laners, dude. The Palafoxes, the Ablaze Olives. These young teams and young players are having an impact. Chime is one of the next great, NA supports. I think he's got a very similar career trajectory towards Vulcan. Towards Afromu even, potentially. I think he's a little bit more like Afromu than Vulcan, maybe. Regardless, this system is getting better. This league is getting better. And more games, every team has stated this. They get more out of games on the LCS stage or playing against the LCS opponents when it matters than they do in practice and scrims. So for those who are complaining about scrims, get over it. You're going to get better if you play more games in games that matter. And not only that, but dude, this last weekend was full of exciting, interesting stories and games. Because I think this was the best way to combine both the spring and the summer. I think it was great. It's much better than the point system that they used to have, where first place was basically guaranteed and they could have finished fifth or whatever and still gotten into Worlds. Nah, that system's gone. We saw it. Cloud9 were the best team in spring, by far. Not even close. But because they had the combined records, they might be out, after 2 series. They might not even make Worlds after being at MSI. Guys, this was really good for the LCS. This system works, I think, pretty well. I'd even argue that they should go to 27 games for the spring split, too. I get it if they don't. I get it if they want to just keep the lock-in and not have any of those games count. But I think 3 games a week, pretty solid, if you ask me. This was a monster of an episode. I'm really glad I got to do it, though. Again, this is basically making up for no episode on Thursday, no episode next Monday. I do apologize for that. Again, I will be out of town. You guys can hit me up on Twitter, though. You can hit me up on Discord. I will be checking those. Not as often as I do. I want to kind of get away from those a little bit. Really reset myself for the rest of the year. But I'm really appreciative that you guys have been on this journey with me for a full season. We will be coming up on the year anniversary of this episode sooner than we know. And, we've got a long way to go till the end of this season, hopefully. With that, if you like this show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit that bell icon so you don't miss another episode. Please continue to support this on all podcasting platforms. I am extremely pleased and appreciative of the support it's already gotten. Share this with your friends. You can hit me up on Twitter at TGHRobertHaynes or the Gamehouse at TGH Esports. Lastly, you can head to thegamehouse.com for all of our LCS, NBA draft, NBA free agency, MLB trade deadline, TFT, you name it, coverage. It's all there. And with that, thanks for tuning in. This should normally comes out every Monday and Thursday. It'll be coming out Monday and Thursday of next week, but it's still exclusively for your TSM earholes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. I'll see you all in, about 10 days. Talk to you then.